Episode 68 of the Unscripted Company Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Applebee's Eatin' Good in the Hood, Riley's favorite restaurant. He was just telling me about how he loves to go there.
2 for $25.
Do they still? Okay, so interesting. Before we get to the question of the week, I stopped seeing that concept at restaurants, and I honestly haven't been to Applebee's since I worked at an Applebee's. From what you're aware of, I don't know when the last time you've walked into one. Do they still have a 2 for something? I'm sure the price has gone up.
So the last time I was there, which soon after I left, like I'd kind of go in there like occasionally just to work. Like I'd be driving by, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop in here and work and just sit and chill out and everything like that. But how they started doing it was then it was like a 2 for 22, a 2 for 25, and then a 2 for 27. And then it was like you could only choose certain meals under the 2 for 22. But you could choose any meal you wanted. But like if one of you got one on the 2 for 22, one got one on the 2 for 25, it would split that little bit of that cost. You'd pay like $23.50 or something like that. And then eventually I think it went from like 2 for 20. It went to like 2 for 25 to then 2 for 27, and now it's like a 2 for 30 or something like that.
Yeah, I went to Applebee's corporate website. Now I know Applebee's, they're franchised all over the place. They have different menu items, different prices, depending on, where in the world you are. But on their website is 2 for 2x. So choose your own journey on what the actual price is based on what the franchisee decides to charge you for that. But yeah, I've seen at some restaurants now they'll do like 2 for 40, 2 for 35. And it's just prices just keep going up, and they don't seem to be coming down anytime soon, especially with food. I think food's just getting more expensive regardless of if it's justified or not. It just seems to be the case. And you and I were talking about this before we hit record. I love finding those hole in the wall local restaurants that the prices still feel like it was 5-10 years ago. You can go in there, have a meal for two entrees, soda, water, who knows, and walk out of there for like less than $40 basically. And it's hard. Sometimes you'll go out and it's like $75, $100.
And that's why if we go out, we only go out to like certain places. Like Frillies. We love Frillies. We haven't been there forever, but every time we'd go there though, we'd spend like $60 to $75, including tip, because for one, the service was always good. Number two, I mean, it was good food. Like it was fresh food.
Frillies, is that seafood Cajun place?
The little hole in the wall place.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the company or the owners that actually opened up that other restaurant that remember a lot of those Applebee's servers?
Oh no, you're talking about Catahoula's?
Maybe too. I went blank on the name, and then they closed down because the whole I-35 expansion thing, and
that wasn't why they closed down.
I know it wasn't. It was. I don't think they could afford the lease on the building.
It was Shell Shack.
Was it Shell Shack?
Yeah,
okay.
Shell Shack was the one that...
This is different than Frillies in terms of...
Yeah, so Shell Shack was the one that we went to that on my 22nd birthday or something like that, 23rd birthday? No, it was like my 23rd birthday. We met for lunch.
Yeah.
And it was next to Bombay.
Yes.
That smoke shop was still there, yeah.
Yeah,
so they shut down because... I think it was partially because their food was too expensive. Because they were like an upscale seafood place. You go in there and it's like bar's nice, restaurant looks nice, everything. So it was like an upscale place. So partially because of that, but because of the highway expansion, I think they were increasing their rent to try to get them to leave so they could just sell because now none of those places are going to be over there soon.
Yeah.
Because now they're working on all the highway expansion now.
Oh, just now getting around to it.
Bro, let me tell you, man.
Yeah.
If I told you about all of it, we'd be here for like almost the entire hour.
The I-35 expansion podcast.
God, dude. And so they shut that one down, and so now it's just Frillies. And so, but Frillies is like your good, like it is a hole in the wall place. It looks like a Cajun restaurant, like when you walk into it. I'll be honest, the bar doesn't they sell alcohol, but the bar doesn't, it's not like people sit at the bar. That's how small it is.
Yeah.
So it's like you go in there and it's just all restaurant. like pretty much. And so we go occasionally, but there's really no other places like in Denton per se that we're like, yeah, we're gonna go here. Like they have other hole in the wall places. We don't go to LSA anymore. Um, Very rarely we do, anyways. They also got rid of the coleslaw that they had there too.
What? I like
Yeah,
that coleslaw. That was
dude, I
good.
did too, man. Like that was like the best coleslaw that I think I've ever had
I
anywhere.
wonder why they had
And
to get rid of it. It was
it was cost.
oh, okay. It was high. It was high end. It wasn't like your
Yeah,
cheap coleslaw. It
yeah.
was very leafy greens.
And so they got rid of that, and they even stopped it because like I was curious, like when they opened up the second location in the colony, I was like, okay, maybe it's just because second location they're just trying to do something different here. No, they straight up got rid of it at both locations, and I asked
Huh.
them why, and they were like, yeah, it's cost wise, like I was like, okay. And so very let down by that, but like we go to play, Cartwrights, like I said, Frillies. I'm trying to think of what other local places that they have here. They've got still some around the square, but a lot of places on the square are just too expensive now. Like
Yeah.
aside from Cartwrights is like the only one that doesn't really. You don't feel the prices when they raise the prices. Like you don't feel it. But there's just not a lot of local places. Like so many local places have opened over the last 5 years, and quite a few of them have shut down because of lack of support.
Interesting.
And again, I love the city of Denton. I do. But people talk about, supporting local businesses, but then you want to build new buildings for UNT. You want to build new dorms for UNT. You want to jack up tuition. You want to do all these things and now we're getting a home zone, which I don't know why, because we just got an at home. And so now they're building a home zone right down the road. And it's like you're bringing in all these corporate places. And so none of these small businesses can survive. Like talking about, like they're now building a second Popeyes on 380.
Hmm.
And so it's like, none of these mom and pop shops can survive. Like they're having to raise their prices, and then people get upset at them, and it's like it's not them, it's everything else. So it's
Real
like,
important question for you though: is the Fat Shack still there?
yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
haven't been there since
It just
those
randomly popped
days.
in my head. It just randomly
Yeah.
popped in my head, and I was like, "The Fat
Yeah.
Shack." I haven't said those words in a hot second.
Dude, I remember that time we went there. That was a choice.
That was a choice. Yeah, like for those who don't know Fat Shack, there's other places like there's one place in Austin that's very similar to this vibe where everything is deep fried, but they do these like monstrosity sandwiches. I don't even know if I'm using the right term to describe that, where the sandwich be on like a big hoagie roll, and then inside of that it could be jalapeno poppers, mozzarella sticks, buffalo chicken. Like, are you pulling it up right now?
Yeah.
It's just like an ungodly, unholy experience, but it's very good.
And they used to be. I know we haven't been there in years. Just for anyone who might be questioning this, we haven't
You're
been
like,
there
no,
in
we did
years.
dinner there last night.
This is back in our younger days, and our other livelihoods and such. But
Gardening.
yeah, gardening. But during this time, so this restaurant was actually featured on
Was it Man versus Food?
I don't know if it was Man versus Food, but it was some food like Food Discovery or something like that. Yeah. And they had one that was like, it was in a different state. So it's like it didn't exist here. And then they brought one to Denton. And so just so people can kind of see, so they have the 5K challenge. So they have munchies. So you got like all your fries, cheese fries, onion rings, like all your small things and whatnot. And now you have your fat sandwiches. And
there you go.
let me tell you, like if you order stuff like this, you need to eat it right then, because if you wait, it's gonna be it's not gonna be a good experience.
Yeah.
You have a fat Andy with fried pickles, mozzarella sticks, onion rings, like no.
And this
meat.
is a sandwich. This is a sandwich, which is crazy.
It's a full-on sandwich. The fat Bronco, and like everything starts with fat, so it's like fat Jersey, fat Doobie, fat Maverick, like, and you can see all the different things they have on here. And 90% of these sandwiches are constructed with deep fried food.
Yeah, these are like 3,000 calorie sandwiches.
Now, when we first went there, they didn't have this. They didn't have burgers. It was literally sandwiches, fries, wings, chicken, desserts. That was it. Wings and fingers. So again, you have your different sizes and flavors. They only have 4 flavors, so nothing crazy. They also didn't have Philly cheesesteaks. Now here's where things got interesting.
Forgot about this. The desserts.
You had deep fried Oreos, deep fried cheesecake bites, and deep fried funnel cake bites. And then the shakes. Shakes weren't too crazy. You had your traditional flavors, then your Oreo flavor, but then you had your specials, which you had like, so they had the burger specials, Monday wing deal, burger
They were on
bundle.
Shark Tank.
Were they?
That's what it says. So it's like as seen
Oh,
on
yeah.
CNBC, BuzzFeed, Shark Tank.
Travel Channel. That was where I saw it. It was Travel Channel. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah, here's the location. So they actually expanded a lot more locations because when they first came to Denton, they only had like 2 locations. One was
Colorado and Texas. Those were the 2.
Yeah, Colorado, Texas, and I thought they had one in New Jersey, but I guess they didn't. So yeah, so that's so that was Fat Shack. Since then, they've opened some other like hole in the wall plate. Like, so when you had Cane's, but then you had Lynn's Chicken that opened up over on Fry Street. So that was like the original, like both of them were together, but then they separated.
Y'all have a Lens up there.
Yeah, so we have a Lynn's now. And then we have the Slat Burger. So it's kind of like another version of Moo Y'all, but it's over on Fry Street as well, which their burgers aren't bad. Not the greatest. Like if I'm going to get a burger, it's like I want like a good like burger, but like they're good for like, again, being on Fry Street. It's good for all those people over there who do their thing, but I'll be honest, man, Fry Street isn't even popping anymore. I'll be honest, like I'm kind of okay with that because it's like, dude, every time whenever I would drive down that way trying to go somewhere one night or something like that, like it'd be too crowded, too many students, too many kids. But I think they started having a lot of issues with just underage drinking and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people just steer clear of it now.
Ooh,
like
that's a good and a bad thing, I guess.
At least from my perception.
Yeah.
Like I don't go there. I don't go near there on like Friday nights or Saturday nights or Thursday nights. But it's
probably still popping then on Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, it might be. But for the most part, though, it's like I don't. It's not as big as what it once was.
Yeah.
It's not the all in be all of what UNT is. But yeah. So yeah, Fat Shack. You have other places, but there's just no, like, they have your good local places, and then that's like, you don't, like, I choose not to really go a whole lot of other places after that. Like there's just not really anything else that's good per se.
Reminder, this episode is sponsored by Applebee's, so gotta show Applebee's some love. I'm kidding.
But yeah, no, we're not showing them any love because they didn't show us any love when we worked there.
I digress.
Yeah.
You got a question of the week?
I do. Okay. If you had a personal loading bar that people could see, what would it be stuck at right now?
A personal loading bar?
So it could be interpreted as like it's just a traditional loading bar, like when you're playing a video game and you have your loading bar, or it could be like your personal aspects of your life, like what's something that's I don't know, but that's just,
that's going to be some like dystopian stuff to where like picture 10 years from now when AR and VR becomes normalized, so everyone's seeing an augmented version of reality, but your brain still has to load. Your artificial brain has to still process the world around you. So you see other people who are still trying to buffer and digest the data of the world around them, and you see that like their literal brain is still processing data. I guess mine would be about half full or half empty, depending on the optimism in there. I'm tired. Been doing a lot of stuff this morning, but yeah, be about halfway. What about you?
A lot less than halfway. I'll be 100% honest. Yeah, that's just I don't know, because it's like, so like when I look at these questions, because like they're all broken down by like topic category, and so this is like a simulation category based questions, and I look at it in a sense where, what if like a portion of where we were living at wasn't really where we needed to be, so it's like the loading bar didn't really start until we started that portion of our lives that we were meant to start per se. And so it's like, I feel like at most I'd probably be a fourth of the way there, perhaps. You know
how last week, might have been 2 weeks ago, we were joking about living in a dream, trying to wake up from that dream. I think it was part of the question of the week. I saw this video dropped.
I wish it was a dream.
Well, it might be a dream.
What I have learned is that we live in a dream, a carefully constructed reality. We make use of a science that is tightly controlled and suppressed and distorted. I think we are left behind.
Humans.
I think normies, the normal humans, the people have been left behind. Us.
Mm-hmm.
People need to understand that we might have freedom of speech, but that has been subverted. We do not have freedom of inquiry. We are blocked from learning what we need to know. Just in the public world, we are blocked from advancing in science. We are taught false science intentionally to prevent us from learning more. We live in the Matrix.
So who is that guy?
That is a gentleman by the name of Matthew Brown, and he was being interviewed by George Knapp and Anthony Corbell. So George Knapp is a longtime journalist out of Las Vegas, Nevada, multiple award-winning journalist. He also broke the story on Bob Lazar back in like the 80s and 90s. Also, I don't want to say broke the story, but definitely brought Skinwalker Ranch to light. Anthony Corbell, the other guy, is a documentarian, so more of a movie maker, basically, and made the documentaries on, Skinwalker Ranch, all these different like alien UFO documentaries that are kind of like top 10 tier status when it comes to learning the information. And that's Matthew Brown was a former worked for the Secretary of Defense for an intel contractor. And so they had a whole 45-minute interview with him about UAPs and all sorts of things. But I've been seeing clips from it. I haven't actually had a chance to see the full interview yet. I don't think I might need to go search and see if I can find it, because I saw this the other day. I just kind of aimlessly scrolling, but it's interesting.
So, like, what if, not to say like we're living in a dream, and I'll be honest, like tonight we have quite a few things to cover, and we're going to still try to get to all of them. We're going to try to get to everything, because, we like good long episodes of just whatever comes to mind. But I think, I don't think the dream concept is necessarily too far fetched, but I think it's more of like a reality that we can't perceive. So people talk about okay, I believe in God. Okay, well, I believe in science. Okay, well, technically, when you look at it, God spoke on a lot of the things that we know today.
They can work hand in hand with each other. Yeah.
So what about the dream aspect? What if that works similarly with faith? I don't want to use the word religion, because religion is what ruined faith. People put labels on it, and it's not. It shouldn't be. It's just, if it's in the scripture, if it's in the Bible, that's what you go by. Don't try to add a bunch of stuff to it, because you can't. And so, like, what if the dream aspect is true? Because I've always wondered this, and I think I may have mentioned this before, but like, people who like when you're born, okay, people don't remember their birth. They don't know what happened during their birth. And we have photos, like I have photo albums upon photo albums of just moments from my childhood. But when I try to think about or recall those memories, I can't remember those memories. And it seems like as you get older, you tend to forget about those memories, not in like a memory loss aspect, but like you just tend to forget about those. But then you start thinking about your future, and you start thinking about things that are going to happen in your future and things that you're perceiving as what your future is going to be. Like I've been telling myself like, or like envisioning myself being a, amazing real estate professional selling, 20 to 30 homes a year, like all this stuff that I've been envisioning, but yet I can't remember my past. And I don't know if that's just a matter of me suppressing those memories, or if it's just that's what happens as you get older. You stop really thinking about you, like, not that you can't really think about the past because it is in the past, but you start thinking more about the future. And then as you get older, you start losing those memories, and then that's where, like, I don't necessarily know if I still believe in the reincarnation aspect, but what if it's like the light that you go into, and as you're going into that light, you're now being birthed back into the earth or into the world as another newborn baby, and that's why you start losing your memories as you get older.
Yeah. A lot of people tend to think that or speculate about that, because then you also have situations where you hear these stories of young children who have memories of prior lives, and there's been situations where they'll the details, the small little details that they talk about of these past lives, sometimes get proven true. Like, I forget the specifics of this exact example, but there was this 10-year-old that had these memories of a past life in a war. I forget which war.
Yes, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and like got these like really small, intricate details correct about a certain battle in a certain location, to where there's no way this 10-year-old boy, girl, I forget. There's no way
I think it was a boy.
Maybe, yeah. They wouldn't have been able to like guess this, nor gone out of their way to do research where you couldn't have researched some of these details.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they got it correct when experts came and like interviewed and stuff like that. For some reason, I want to say this was like years ago, and I want to say the war was like World War One. It was like something to do with trench warfare. I have some vague memory of this.
I want to say that it was like a 2016.
Maybe
It was like a 2016 to 2020 thing that I think that came out about it, because I remember that.
And some people speculate that potentially, like, if you lose your life very suddenly and tragically, that quick rebirth sometimes carries over the memory with it. Rather than like a peaceful passing and then rebirth.
And that's kind of where, like, I think a lot of the conflict comes, because don't get me wrong, I still believe that when I die, I'm gonna go and be in heaven for all eternity. Like, I'm gonna live forever. But they're just like those. I can't help but think about those things, not all the time, but just like, I'm like, what if we legitimately are living in an actual simulation? Like, because we can't, like, our brains can't perceive more than what we're seeing in front of us now. Like, humans only use, it's just like that movie with Scarlett Johansson, and she like unlocks like more than 10% of her brain.
Oh, was it Lucy? I think?
Lucy, yeah. And so it's like, humans, would that really be how we would be if we unlocked more than 10% of our brain? Because you have to think, even the smartest people on the planet, Stephen Hawking and all them, what was the percentage of his brain he was able to use to do the stuff that he did? Most normal humans, most average humans can't use more than 10% of their brain power. We can't access more than 10% of our brain power, and that's crazy to think about.
That is crazy to think about. And I know the concept of like how we got to where we are is, at some point in our lineage, mushrooms were consumed, like psychoactive mushrooms, and that helped with the brain development. I can't speak in like great detail about it, but I definitely have heard that did play a role somewhere in the lineage of human history. So that eating of red meat, cooking meat, but psychoactive mushrooms for sure played a role in that somewhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. So
yeah, and that's kind of like where we talk about the we talked about it before, that CIA project or whatever, where they had
MK Ultra.
Yeah, and people were taking acid and LSD and stuff like that. It's like that's why they make it illegal, because it opens your mind to things that you can't perceive. But then there's other things too that could do the same thing, but it's just, we're just not meant to to be at that point. We're not meant to open that portion of our brains, I guess. I don't know. But could you imagine though that if everyone just could access it any point in time? I feel like that'd be dangerous, but
yeah, I think it would be.
But it could be helpful in some aspects. Some people would use it for good and some people would use it for bad. and I feel like that's where I feel like that's why God did what he did back in Genesis. The whole tree of knowledge. He told them not to eat from it, but there's a reason why that didn't transfer down throughout time, so to speak. And so it's like he didn't want us to access more than what we can understand, because that's just. And I think that that's up to us to just research things, to just know things, to study, and to gain that knowledge over time, but not to just have it at our fingertips. So
Yeah. So I know we got a good deal of stuff on the list tonight. I know at least on my side, I'm going to kick off. Actually, I don't know which one I'm going to kick off with. Is there something you for sure want to kick off with? Or I'm trying to decide between the top 3 I have on my list versus whatever you may want to kick off with.
we can start off with some depressing stuff again if you want to get that out of the way.
Why not? You know what? This next 10 to 15 minutes of depression is brought to you by our sponsor, Applebee's. Eating good in the hood. All right, what is Applebee's bringing us tonight?
Let's see here. Let me see if I can find it first, if it'll actually pull it up. But it doesn't seem like it's going to. Hold on. Let me find it real quick. So there was another car accident, another fatal car accident in Plano, Texas. Let's see.
Did this one involve a helicopter? Hey, helicopters can hit cars.
I thought you knew something. I was like,
No. The only crash I'm aware of was did you see that Mexican naval ship that
oh yeah,
hit the Brooklyn Bridge?
Yeah. So this was I think this was 10 hours ago. So this happened just today.
Hot off the presses, just like the boneless hot buffalo wings brought to you by Applebee's. Eat good in the hood.
3 people were killed in a single vehicle crash early Sunday morning in Plano, so around 2:30 a.m.
Oh, they just straight up whacked a concrete barrier. Man, terrifying.
Yeah.
How fast were they going? That's the other question.
That is the other question. Well, I mean, Highway 75, it's not one of the fastest highways in DFW. Like, I think the highest speed limit is 65.
Well, that's the speed limit, but how fast were they going?
No, that's true. I'm just saying. It's like, if I'm on an expressway and the speed limit says 75, people were I've seen people like go way fast. Like, people probably going 100. I'm like, that is insane. Like, why would you go that fast?
I don't know if I ever told you this. There's a toll road next to the town that I live in now. Actually, the toll road goes right through the town. And it has a speed limit of 85 miles per hour.
That's the West Texas speed limit. When you go out to West Texas and you're on I-20, once you get out past Abilene, I think the standard speed limit is 85 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's fast.
But those expressways are getting they're expanding them now up here.
2:30 in the morning in the northbound lane, so they're coming up from Dallas.
Yep. Police say a small SUV crashed into construction barriers and the concrete barrier before bursting into flames.
They were going fast. If it bursted into flames.
Yeah. I don't know. Here's the thing, though. I don't recall seeing construction on 75, but I could be wrong. They might have just started it recently. Once Plano Fire and Rescue extinguished the fire, they found 3 people dead inside the vehicle. We don't know.
Like, the impact alone, they couldn't get out of the vehicle. They were done for at that point.
Says it is unclear whether the victims died from the impact of the crash or the fire. Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how fast they were going, because airbags can kill people too if you're going too fast. Like, just like the initial brunt of the seatbelt holding you in and then getting whacked in the face by an airbag, like that can cause stuff. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. They said they will release the identities of the victims once the next of kin are notified. I anticipate that that's probably already happened at some point today. Because of the fire and the heat of it, no one can get near it until Plano Fire was able to extinguish it, said Minton. From what I understand and hearing from some of the officers and stuff, is that it was very horrific, and we have a peer support group here, and I believe that will be activated for the officers that were on scene. Says they're working to properly identify the victims. It's like, I mean, if we had a family that come forward saying someone didn't come home or they can't reach them or something like that, we still have to wait for the final determination from the ME's office, said Minton. Multiple officers were out there taking measurements, using drones to map the area so that we could do a good, thorough, and complete investigation to find what happened that led up to the crash. The information in this article is provided by the Plano Police Department. So, don't know who they are. Don't know what was. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not gonna say anything was. I mean, we won't know, but a lot of people that tend to speed are either just speeding just to speed, or they were under the influence of something that caused them to do so. Again, we don't know what.
They were probably having a good time downtown Dallas, Spearmint Rhino. You know, they had to get home. They had to get back to McKinney.
Hold on, because I'm actually curious. Because there's a video here that I think it may show.
I saw the video in that news article was like out in Midland. It was like another car crash somewhere else.
So this one right here is like actually a video of that. Let me see.
Intoxicated driver caused a deadly crash on the Dallas North Tollway this morning, according to the Department.
Oh, so this is a different crash.
Dallas North Tollway this morning, according to Gators Think, an intoxicated driver caused a deadly crash on the Dallas North Tollway this morning. According to the Department of Public Safety, a Dodge Durango was going north in the southbound lanes of the DNT near 635, and it hit a Mercedes. 2 people in the Mercedes died. Another passenger was hospitalized. That accused wrong-way driver survived.
Wow.
Also killed in a crash in Plano. Central Expressway had to be shut down for about 7 hours while they investigated. You can see the resulting backup right here. Plano police say a small SUV hit a concrete barrier and caught fire on northbound Central near Park Boulevard around 2:30 this morning. It wasn't until firefighters got the flames under control that officers discovered 3 victims inside.
From what I understand in hearing from some of the officers and stuff, that it was very horrific. And we have a peer support group here at the police department, and I believe that's going to be activated for the officers that were on scene.
Plano police are still working to figure out what caused the SUV to crash. The medical examiner's office is working to identify those victims.
So 2 situations there. The first one, the North Dallas Toll Road, you had someone that was blatantly going the wrong direction on the wrong side of the road. First of all, not easy to do, if I'm understanding that correctly, because there's also a median there. So you had to have took, I don't know, with the wrong way on an off-ramp, I guess. You got used an off-ramp as an on-ramp and just decided to keep
Dallas
driving.
roads be confusing sometimes, man. I'm just saying. Like, they really do, though. Like, when you're
but
driving
enough to where you like go in the wrong direction on a toll road. You know what I mean? Like,
you'd be surprised, man.
I'm picturing. I don't know exactly where that was on the North Dallas Toll Road, but
So it's 635 DNT. So that's like
was that thunder? Is that what I just heard?
thunder, yeah.
Yo, oh, yeah, you're in a tornado watch or warning right now.
Watch right now.
All right, so guys, don't forget to like and subscribe because this might be Riley's last episode. Brought to you by Applebee's.
That's good. Let's go. Let's do it. Yeah, so DNT, Dallas North Tollway goes straight down through the center of Dallas, I think, almost, and 635 intersects that. So that's not too hard. And then just kind of going from there. Then you had the one on 75, which goes up to McKinney. So it's crazy. I didn't expect that second one, but here we are.
Here we are indeed.
All right. So now that we got the depressing news out of the way.
Yeah, here, let me try to clear the air a little bit before we go on to the next story. So it's graduation season, right? We have students graduating, walking the stage, getting their diplomas, high school, college, all levels of education. And, you know, there's funny videos that come out of it for various reasons. Some of them, you roll your eyes at it because you're like, these fools, they just got a college degree and they're making a fool of themselves already. Well, then you have people like this that get put in a category of their own. I'll click play and just let you figure out what happens. For those of you who aren't able to watch this, this is a gentleman getting ready to walk the stage. As he walks across, he's like, you know what? I'm going to do a backflip to celebrate in the middle of this. Doesn't rotate near far enough and kind of just pile drives himself.
Knocks himself out.
Yep. And the administrators and those teachers, professors, whoever they are. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at this. Is this the University of Houston?
I think so.
I think that says UH. And that's their colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. University of Houston. Houston's finest right here.
I just don't. I don't know what kind of breed of people that that are coming out of college these days. Yeah, I just don't know. And again, we've had conversations about college before, about some degrees are warranted, some degrees are needed, others are not. But then when you see this kind of stuff happening, it's like, why do you? Just why? I think that's the big question.
So let's complete the Texas Triangle here. You had some Dallas-Fort Worth news. I just showed a video from Houston. Let's go on down to San Antonio, shall we? If you didn't know, Annabelle, the famous Annabelle doll, yes, from the Conjuring franchise, is in San Antonio for a paranormal festival event that's going
I
on.
don't live there.
The funny thing is, a lot of locals in San Antonio are very much up in arms that this demonically possessed doll happens to be in their city for the event. And many are going to social media and public forums to protest this and try to get the doll outside of city limits as fast as possible. Now, to give some more context here, Annabelle coming to town for a paranormal fest at a haunted inn that's in San Antonio. For those who didn't know, Annabelle, outside of the movie franchise, is actually like a Raggedy Ann doll. So it's kind of innocent looking, but according to Ed and Lorraine Warren, who have since both passed, there's a legitimate demon inside of this doll. It's like, apparently no joke. It was always kept behind this like protected glass that it had. That's, I forget the details. Like, they bless this thing like every day, I think, to try to keep the demon at bay.
But is it really a protective glass that can hold a demon out?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's be honest here.
I don't know. But
And
a
here's
lot of
the
people
thing,
are
though.
not happy about it.
The fact that there are people actually like saying like, hey, because here's the thing. They're going to have the doll there, and then you're going to have people go there, take videos and pictures of it. It's like, if you really want it out of your city that bad, why are you going there taking pictures and videos of it?
I don't know. Well, it's also a paranormal festival where, people are going to pay tickets to go to the overall festival. And so this is like a draw for that festival. Like, I get it.
They can keep that thing.
Dude, yeah, I know. I was like, if I knew this doll was anywhere close to me, nah, not about that. Not about it at all. Here's an actual video. Oh.
The Raggedy Ann doll. Yes. That's probably the worst thing we have in this whole museum. That Raggedy Ann doll was given to a nurse in 1970 by her mother as a Christmas present. Mm-hmm. But as most girls do, even 28 years old, she would take the doll to bed with her, wrap her arm around, and go to sleep. I do the same thing with a pillow. But then she started taking it to the breakfast nook, where the arms one morning went onto the table. Mm-hmm. Now, she lived with another nurse, and they shared the expenses of the apartment, which was 4 blocks away from Hartford Hospital. Right. At that point, they told the girls about the incident, and one said, I know a medium. So they held a seance that night. Mm-hmm. That was the beginning of many seances with this doll. They would come home at night, and the woman had told them, the medium, that there was a spirit of a 6-year-old child in the doll by the name of Annabelle, who had been killed outside of their apartment house in an automobile accident. Mm-hmm. Well, there was such a child, but God does not allow a child spirit to go into a doll. This was a devil, a demon inside the doll, which was impersonating the spirit of a child. Well, they treated it like it was a child. They got extra clothing, and they got different types of bracelets and things for it, just treating it like a little girl. They would take it for rides. But then they started to become frightened when things were happening in the house, sounds, knockings, rappings, whispering. And they said, oh, Annabelle must want another seance. Mm-hmm. So they would hold a seance going deeper down that road of no return. Then they would take the doll and put it on the bedroom, in the bed, and they'd leave it there. They'd come home after midnight, the 2 girls, open up the door, and this doll would be standing there waiting for them. Now, that doll can't stand. You can see it has very flimsy legs, but I've seen it stand. Now, these are all the diabolical manifestations that we look for. Well, as time went on, one of the fiancés of one of the girls said, get rid of the doll, burn it, throw it away. He wanted to get rid of that doll. He fell asleep one Saturday afternoon. And the doll was put right across from him on a couch. And the girls were fooling around saying, well, now, Annabelle, you help us to clean up. Just like a little kid. Yeah. All of a sudden, he woke up with a start. He was sweating. He said, my God, he said, what a nightmare I just had. I dreamt that Annabelle there was strangling me, and he had marks on his throat. Was it psychosomatic? Well, he walks over to the doll, he picks it up, and looks at it, and throws it right across the room. You're nothing but a rag doll. You couldn't hurt anyone. With that, 7 slashes appeared on his body, 4 in the chest and 3 on the stomach. The blood came right through his shirt. Now they were all frightened. Things were flying around the room. They called the High Episcopal Canon in Hartford. He called Father Richard Nolan. Father Nolan called us. We went to the house. Exorcism was performed immediately in the home and over the people. I took the doll back to my home here, where it's in the museum now. At one time, I had it just sitting in a chair. But a priest came here one day and he said, Ed, this doll is supposed to be infested by devils. He picks the doll up and he throws it across the room, just like the young man in the house. God is more powerful than the devil. I said, yes, Father, you're right. God is more powerful than the devil, but no priest is, no man. On his way home in a brand new car on Route 84, the car went out of control, almost head on into a tractor-trailer truck. It was demolished, and the priest was almost killed. The last thing he remembered seeing was that doll. A detective, a homicide detective that Lorraine and I were working with, wanted to see the museum. We work on many cases where children are murdered or whatever. And he came down here, looked all over, and he said, you know, Ed, of all the things here, I can't take my eyes off that doll. At that time, it was still in a chair. The phone rang. I said, I'll be right back. Don't touch anything in this room. Everything in here is unholy, unblessed, the opposite of what you would find in a church. Well, I wasn't even up there talking for 10 minutes when I heard him coming up the stairs. He had to come through the passageway into the Halloween room and up into the kitchen. This man was a huge guy. He was about 6'3", 250 pounds, used to seeing grisly sights. He was sweating. He couldn't speak. He was trembling. I thought he was having a heart attack. I told him to sit down and I'd call an ambulance. He said, no, Ed, it isn't that. I said, well, what's wrong? I don't want to talk about it. That's what he said. I don't want to talk about it. Sometimes a little macho and cops, you know. Sure. And Lorraine walked in and he looked at Lorraine, and I guess he found it easier to talk to a woman than a man. He said, I'll tell her about it, but I don't want her to ever talk about it again. Well, she didn't have to. The doll had been in the chair over in one corner of this room. When I came in, the doll was over in another corner on the floor. Everything had been knocked over, like there was a terrible struggle here. There was a terrible struggle. This man had picked that doll up. His aura had mingled with the aura of that doll, and something so terrible occurred that he resigned from the police department 3 months later and moved to California. Is that right? A young man came in here one day with a bunch of college students, and after I told him about the doll and many other things, he came over here. I was standing over in the other corner. He started tapping on this glass and said, I don't believe any of this is a bunch of hooey. He said, if that doll can do anything, let it do something to me right now. Put a slash on me. I put him out of the building. He was on a motorcycle. 3 hours later, he was dead. The girl that he was with said that he was laughing about the doll when the motorcycle, just like the car, went out of control, hit a tree, and killed him instantly. The girl was in the hospital for over a year. You do never challenge devils. Don't mess with the devil. No,
So
sure.
here's my only thing. And Annabelle, I'm not challenging you by any means.
No, I hear the thunder, I hear the lightning.
But the doll in the in the case looked smaller than the doll that the person was holding.
That's a great observation. Let's see here.
I'm not saying the doll isn't real. I'm not saying that the doll isn't actually possessed. I'm not saying that there is not a devil inside that doll. I'm just saying, when you look at the man, that doll looks significantly taller than the doll that's there.
Yeah, it might be because in the case it is sitting, so potentially just the perception of it.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, so here's another video of it in the actual location in San Antonio.
Yeah.
But needless to say, there's a lot of lore behind this doll.
Yeah.
And
that
some
could be on
people
our Halloween playlist for this year. We could talk about Annabelle.
That's actually not a bad idea because we could go through the whole Conjuring franchise basically because there's so many loosely true related stories in that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean it'll be here before you know it.
Yep. Well, all right. So the next two things that I have technically can go hand in hand. They both have to do with our glorious education system.
Yippee!
If this other one will load up. Let's see.
I heard that.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. Okay, if this one may not show up. Let's see. Hold on. Let me find it. Okay.
While you do that, I'll just remind people, go check out your local Applebee's. Get yourself one of their Long Island iced teas, Bahama Mamas, perfect margarita. Yeah, check them out.
Yeah. So both these kind of go hand in hand. So there's been a lot of education stuff happening.
Educate us.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the best that I can. So because I work in the world of real estate, I have to know about not just housing stuff, but school systems, things like that, because that's going to affect people moving where they're moving to, people relocating, all kinds of things like that.
Better the school district, the better the price of the house. Or the higher the price of the house.
The higher, yes.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, there's been not just because of the Doge and all that kind of stuff, a lot of the Department of Education stuff's been affected. Teachers already don't make a lot of money. There's already been a lot of private sectors, a lot of private schools, things like that have been in existence for quite some time. But now there's about to be even more, I feel. The private sector, I think, is about to completely explode when it comes to schooling. So the city of Fort Worth just announced last week that there's 20 schools shutting down, just straight up shutting down. And don't get me wrong, there are parts of Fort Worth that are a bit more
uneasy.
Uneasy. We'll just go with that word. And so therefore there's a lack of teachers. A lot of teachers have quit. A lot of teachers are seeking out other careers. And they're just not about it. Or even a lot of teachers are probably going into the private schooling sector themselves. They're preferring to be as a independent contractor of sorts. So they get paid to go teach kids at a house or this or that, or they bring kids to their house and they teach them there. So our good old Governor Greg Abbott just signed last week a $1 billion private school voucher bill into law. I'll just kind of throw it up here just so everyone can kind of see it. In front of a large crowd at the governor's mansion. The San Antonio Express News and other media outlets reported Abbott called the new law the biggest legislative win of his time in the governor's office and touted the new program as the largest in the nation. Today is the culmination of a movement that has swept across our state and across our country, Abbott said. It's time we put our children on a pathway to have the number one ranked education system in the United States of America. Now, those of you who know the state of Texas, we're becoming the number one in almost, I don't want to say almost everything, but we're getting there on a lot of aspects. And there's another aspect that I'll be bringing up later on that we'll be talking about. It says the new voucher law will give Texas students $10,000 a year that can be used towards private school tuition, tutoring, textbooks, and other educational expenses. So again, if they choose to, homeschooling and it's private schooling, they can use it there. If they go to a private school, they can use it there. Private schools are still not cheap. They are expensive. Some are more affordable than others, but they are not cheap. Abbott was joined on stage by U.S. Senator John Cornyn, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, House Speaker Dustin Burrows, and several private school leaders. Meanwhile, across the street from the mansion, Democratic legislators, union officials, and public educators gathered to express their opposition to vouchers. Today, big money won, and the students of Texas law, said State Representative James Tellerico D. Austin, Democrat of Austin. Remember this day next time a school closes in your neighborhood. Remember this day next time a beloved teacher quits because they can't support their family on their salary. I'll be honest, I'm kind of opposed to this too. I say that not because I'm opposed to private schools. I think private schools do have a right to be in existence. But I also think that too, public schools shouldn't be affected this much. If public schools are affected, cool. Shut some of them down, allocate the students, or just build bigger schools and just put all the students there, and then just have teachers go to that one school. But when you live in a place like the DFW Metroplex, you have one school here that's a high school, and then you go like 15 minutes down the road and you have another high school. So it's like you have different ones. With that being said, it's already affected that. We've already seen schools in Fort Worth shut down, which I don't know if it was because of that bill or if that was already planned to happen, but because of that bill, you have schools in Louisville, Flower Mound that are shutting down. You have all these multi-million-dollar schools that were just built like 5 years ago that already don't have the infrastructure to hold, like not to hold the amount of students, but they don't have enough students to go to the schools. So that's just kind of interesting on that part.
Yeah, no, I think it's tricky because I know what you're talking about with like these schools being closed for various reasons. But I think one thing that I think some school districts are finding themselves in now is Texas over the last, I don't know, 25, 30 years, heck, 40 years, has gone through this like massive growth spurt, right? Mm-hmm. So you have these suburban school districts where they're used to constant population growth. And typically that means you need more schools to accommodate the kids that are being brought up in the community, right? But as growth slows, and I'll just use an example, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this. Let's think about Louisville, right? The northern suburb of Dallas. Mm-hmm. Louisville, most of its growth really happened 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Like a lot of the new build. That's really when, because like that's when it went from being farmland to like actually having these massive subdivisions or just new neighborhoods being built.
I'd say I'd say probably like a lot of their growth kind of stopped like 2010-ish, give or take, because if they build new builds now, it's usually a lot of townhouses. That's kind of what their focus is. They don't really do a lot of new build single family homes anymore.
Yeah. And so you have the situation where because of the slow, they're not having as many of these new build neighborhoods anymore. So you're not having this influx of young families coming in with kids, right? So the population of that community starts to get older and older. You're still having new families come in for sure, but the turnover rate is nowhere near what it used to be. So you're having, think about like in if anyone's ever lived in a neighborhood, like you have this situation where like you as a kid probably have other kids you hang out with in the neighborhood, but then as the families age, that neighborhood is aging with the population, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have this point in time where these school districts, these towns are saying, yo, we need X number of schools to accommodate this population, this growing population. But then as the population ages out, well, then maybe you don't need 30 elementary schools anymore. Maybe you only need 20 or 25. So you have these decisions of, well, do you continue to fund to have these school buildings open? And it's not cheap to have a school be open.
No.
And so you run this, math equation, because school districts are businesses at the end of the day, of saying, well, if we don't have the income to operate, we have to close schools. And you have situations like Fort Worth, a lot of schools, aging population, close it down, especially because the younger families are not living in Fort Worth anymore. They've all gone to the suburbs, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that, and I bring this up, and it's funny that we're talking about this now because we did a class earlier this week on homestead exemptions and property taxes and partial ag exempt. Like it wasn't, but it was mostly just the homestead and pretty much like what you can get as a homeowner as far as your tax cuts. And we talked about school taxes because everyone pays a school tax, no matter if you own a home or not. You pay a school tax. Well, no, actually,
when you rent, the property owner pays it, but because if that goes up, then your rent's likely to go up with it to accommodate.
Yeah. So, with that being said, how are homeowners' taxes going to be affected now because of these schools? Because when it's like, I can't remember how he said it, how much he said it was, but per every 100 students, it's like, this is how much it is per se. But then you have towns like Louisville that are open enrollment. So it's like, there's no, so for Denton, for example, when you go through a certain school, you know that you're going to go to this middle school next. Then you know it's technically not supposed to be this way, but apparently Geyer, Denton High, what's the third one? There was a third one.
I don't. They built it since. I don't know.
I can't remember what it is, but anyways, so they're not supposed to like recruit the students to go for sports and stuff like that, but they do it anyways. They're not supposed to. But you have like your specific school system. So if you were in this middle school, then you have to go to Geyer. If you're in this middle school, you have to go to Denton High. Louisville's not like that. You can go to whatever school you want to go to. Even if you start in this elementary school and you want to go to this middle school all the way across town, you could do that. How that plays out in this, that's the kicker, because when certain schools shut down, now you're going to be having a possible influx of students that are going to be in this school versus the school that's now shut down. So it's all going to be tricky. Again, this all just happened last week, so a lot of it's going to be unfolding little by little. But, you know, schools are severely underfunded as it is. And unfortunately, living in Texas, you know, they put a huge emphasis on sports and not enough on the actual education system. And I'm not saying kids don't need sports, but how about if you do away with like overfunding the sport aspect and have them, and if they want to play sports, they go like, you know, the extra, like that, you know, how like they have like the leagues that are outside of your school. So you can play in like have that be that course. But I think they need to put a lot more emphasis back into the education aspect and fund more activities that are actually going to, you know, be cheaper in the long run. Because, dude, schools that spend money on uniforms every single year, stadiums, like all this other kind of like all the workout equipment and everything, that's too expensive, man. Versus like, hey, let's just buy some textbooks. Hey, let's just buy some art supplies. Hey, let's just buy some, you know, I know music supplies isn't cheap either, you know, musical instruments and stuff like that. It's not cheap, but it's still cheaper than all this new stuff that they buy for a lot of the sports students and all that. Now it's just, but that's just, I could see where that's where a lot of the funding is going. And that's why teachers themselves just don't have enough funding overall. Now I might be missing the bigger picture because I'm not a teacher. I don't understand it, but I think there's that's why, you know, a lot of agents like real estate professionals, including myself starting next year, but it's like we adopt a school. We go there once a month. We talk to the teachers, take them lunch, talk to them, try to be a resource for them wherever we can to try to help them out as much as we can, because a lot of teachers don't get the praise or anything like that. Same with like medical staff. I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but that's just how it is, unfortunately. The other thing, this is just going to be a real quick one. Texas House passes bill to eliminate STAR testing. Yay! Even though we had to take tax tests and we were the last year to take that tax test, but now they're replacing it with a different testing program. So how they pretty much said it was going to be. So starting this next school year, it could be starting then. But if you have assessments and accountability with a focus on instruction, you have high stress testing. Facts. The proposal aims to replace the STAR test with 3 shorter tests spaced throughout the year. Students would be tested in the beginning of the year, in the middle, and one last time at the end of the year. The goal is to provide real-time results to teachers and parents so students can receive better instruction based off their needs. I think that's definitely a win, because the STAR test gets so much funding that it's better just to do these smaller tests to kind of make it a little bit easier for students. Not going to get too heavy into it, but it says the number of testing days would be reduced by half, allowing schools to rededicate that time to additional learning opportunities for kids. It's funny, though, because all you see is people talking about the private stuff happening. Like, oh, my God, we lost all this money. But now no one's really talking about, okay, well, now we're trying to actually do something else to save a little bit more money for you guys to help out. You know, it's not a lot, but we're trying to make do with what we can. And so we'll see how it goes down, but this could start this upcoming school year for students. And we'll see how it goes and how it facilitates overall. So
hang on a second. Did you see? You don't have to bring it back up. Did you see the ad on the bottom left?
Yeah.
Sarah Palin something.
Yeah.
Oh
that's all. I was like, let me just.
I was like, hold on a second. But yeah, no. Going back to that, it is interesting that I don't think we'll ever have the solution to standardized testing in the United States, even in Texas, because
I don't think it should be a thing.
well, before STAR, you had TAX. Before TAX, you had the TOS test. And before TOS, I'm sure it was something else. I forget what it was before that. But you're always going to have situations where there's so much weight put on standardized testing that as a teacher, you feel forced to teach to the test. Same thing with like AP, advanced placement courses, right? You have the AP test at the end of the year. So how do you pass it? You teach for the AP test. And it's never any cycle. They're going to rebrand these tests every so many years. They're going to try to reinvent the wheel, basically. And yeah, there's probably some better methods than others, but there's no foolproof method to, I don't know, test and assign a numeric value to someone's learning ability.
Right.
So,
because that freaking tax test, the daggum English one almost held me back twice.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a stupid essay both times.
Yeah, and then you also got to remember these tests, the scores that come out of the test, they reflect the performance of a teacher. So a teacher's graded on how good or bad students do holistically.
And that's where the funding and just like the resources, like
and the overall school system. So schools and then the school districts that makes up that, like they're given annual grades by the state.
And you get more money if you do better. You get less money if you do worse. And it's like, I feel like that should technically be the opposite. Like you should give more money to the students who are doing less well to help maybe bring them up, you know? So it's like, there's so, like you said, there's no way to get it right. I think that they should just in a way, just get rid of it all. You know, you can still do like SAT prep for students who want to go to college and stuff like that. And you can still do testing and such. But I think that they should just do away with the standardized testing aspects. Like give a set amount of funding to each school every single year and be like, hey, this is what you got. We're not doing standardized testing anymore because we don't want to base it off of that. This is where we're at. And just see how it goes.
But then you run the risk of how do you know if it's working? Like how do you know if
tests?
Yeah.
Like you'll still take tests. You just won't take a state standardized test because dude, those state standardized tests, man, like no one ever gets a perfect score on them unless you're just a prodigy, but nobody really ever gets a perfect score on them. Like,
but if you're if you're sitting on the Board of Education for the state of Texas or the US, but let's think state specific here. How do you know which schools are working and which ones are not working? Because going back to your pain point about athletics, right? Corners are cut in order to get certain players to play, right? Because you have the no pass, no play rule. So how do you ensure that schools are adequately teaching students if you don't have a state standardized test?
I guess that's true.
Because you have to have a standardized baseline, right? Because you can say like, yeah, every teacher will create tests for their students to see how they're progressing. And there's really nothing wrong with that. But the problem is each teacher is going to create a different type of test, right? Some tests are going to be more difficult than others.
Okay, we'll have it still be a state test, but don't have it to the level of a freaking tax test where it's like 100 or like a STAR test where it's 100 questions plus all these short answer questions plus all these questions where you got to like do like an entire like almost half page of an equation just to get to the answer, you know?
Yeah.
It could be just like you could do it like you could do semesters, just, you know, again, you have your first semester, you have your second semester, or you could just do them all in the second semester.
But then you have situations, what if your school district does trimesters? Instead of semesters, you do trimesters. So you have 3 segments throughout the school year.
It should be, well, I don't know, because like I think we talked about that at one point where like what if all schools just transition to the trimester aspect? But I don't think it would. I don't think that would. You have your summer vacation, you have your holiday vacation. Leave it at that. Just let it be. Just like the whole 4-day school weeks and stuff like that and everything. Like we could go on and on about a lot of that. But even then it's like, just how about before the end of the school year, just, you can still have a form of a standardized test. Just don't make it as extensive. Just do 50 questions. 50 questions. You're good. You're done. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be anything extensive. And then don't set the bar so high that I'm not saying to make it easy, like even if you don't pass, you still go on to the next grade, because you do have to, when you go on to a certain grade, you have to pass, or when you want to graduate, you have to pass. But make it to where it's a little bit more like not so testing heavy, because that's just what our schools are now. It's just all test, 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 test. I'm not a test taker. I suck at taking tests. But when it comes to, but I've gotten a lot better at it over the years. But that's just, I think a lot of students just get their heads about it. And then you got the SATs, the ACT, and all these. It's just like, don't focus so heavy on the testing aspect of things, because not everyone's going to be a good test taker, but they might be good at other skills.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So,
speaking,
tons of warnings right now.
Oh, you're getting like thunderstorm warnings,
flash flood warnings, thunderstorm warnings, still a tornado watch. That gun, boy.
Well, speaking of taking tests, did you see the news from this past week? According to, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, I think, had the exclusive on this. But breaking news, the Department of Homeland Security is reportedly reviewing a proposal for a reality TV show in which immigrants compete in various challenges for a chance to fast track their U.S. citizenship. The show, titled The American, was pitched by producer Rob Warsoff, known for his work on Duck Dynasty. Part of me thinks this is absolutely hilarious, but also at the same time, this is extremely dystopian and kind of terrifying to think that we're at this level of entertainment where we're going to put people in a competition show to compete for a potential chance at a green card.
I don't understand that. But here's the thing. You realize how many of those, like, because they're making money off people's circumstances. So I don't like that aspect. But do you realize how many people would actually try to do this, like, to get out of where they're at?
Yeah, probably a lot.
And how many people would actually like attempt to, what could possibly? This is like a Squid Games thing. Like, this is literally what that is.
You're spot on. You are spot on. Well, keeping the theme with America real quick. President Donald Trump, he was on a bit of an excursion overseas this past week, meeting up with all the powerhouses in the Middle East. And over this 4-day trip, he's raised at least $2.5 trillion in capital for the United States. Rounding out the top three, you had Qatar with $500 billion. Number two, Saudi Arabia with $600 billion. And the granddaddy of them all, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, with $1.4 trillion. Now, the combined value of these investments is larger than the market cap of all but 3 public companies in the entire world. This marks the largest foreign investment commitment ever raised by a president in U.S. history. Now, what's kind of funny is seeing Trump overseas and the kind of welcomes he gets.
Like, all I'm saying is like, when you look at the guy, I'm not saying like, I'm like, oh my God, Donald Trump, but it's like, it's kind of hard not to just, like the energy that he carries around.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, granted, we don't know the man to a T. We don't know what his end game all in all is. Only he knows his end game realistically, and maybe like a select few people. But it's like, I don't know. You see his energy, and you're just kind of like, okay. Like, a lot of people were bashing that, and it's funny because I'll actually kind of touch some base on that. Some like Donald Trump, which I actually have a Trump specific thing, so we can kind of keep that rolling. But apparently, the health department, his health department, to stop recommending COVID shots for children, pregnant women, and just pretty much anyone. Report says. So it's like Robert F. Kennedy came out and was just like, "Hey, we're going to stop this." it says currently the CDC recommends the COVID-19 vaccination for everyone age 6 months and older, including pregnant women. But Kennedy has been a long-time opponent of COVID vaccines. In 2021, he petitioned the FDA to revoke their emergency use authorization. And then, so essentially, like overall, they're just trying to, they're trying to get rid of it. Essentially, anyone who got it, you know, whatever happens at the end of the day. There were so many different versions of the COVID vaccine. I don't think it was all just so, you know.
Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 stateside.
Yeah,
I remember. I think it was Johnson & Johnson. Then they couldn't do it anymore because it had the adverse effects of the blood clots, I think, in women.
Mm-hmm. But I never got it. So I was like, nah, fam, not about that life. I've had it 4 times and I've survived, so I'm good. But yeah, so I don't know. Trump, it's just when you see Trump and you just kind of just look at him, like a lot of people don't like him because of just the way he looks or this or that. But I'm like, but the dude's got morale. Like he's built up so much morale just around his standing on so much stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to just like straight up hate the guy. People hate him because he's speaking the truth, and people hate him because he's trying to bring our country back to what it was. And honestly, you know, you got to respect it. You know, dude fought, just not to go back into the past, but dude fought almost an unwinnable battle and came back and won. Like you talk about comeback stories, man. Like that was a freaking comeback story for the ages. And he did it. You know, no one thought he was going to beat the court cases. No one thought, you know, all the stuff that was going to happen. And he did. He came back and he beat it. And, you know, people just don't like that. And I'm like, that's fine. But the better person won.
Talking about comeback stories, King of the Hill's coming back.
Is it like a legitimate, like a revamp, like a new?
Yep. Like it's in the future now. It's still present day, but like in the future from where they left off.
Okay.
So if you notice, like if you look at the character models, they're older.
They look older. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot older. So think about what Bobby's going to look like.
Oh God.
Yeah. Bobby's an adult now. Yeah.
I kind of want to watch it, but I don't have Hulu, so I can't.
Yeah.
Hulu's cracking down on their password sharing now.
Yeah.
And so I have my buddy's Hulu, and every time I try to log into it, it's like, you're not a part of the household. And so he has to send me a code, and I'm like, I just want to watch The Rookie. That's all I want to watch.
The Rookie. Which one's that? The Rookie.
The Nathan Fillion, the police show.
The Rookie. Oh. Is that an older show? I say older, like.
Oh, it's got 7 seasons now.
Oh, okay.
And that's like my show. And
that is your show.
I'm like 2 or 3 episodes behind now because I can't sign into it.
I got you.
And so I don't want to pay for it because it's super expensive now. So
man. What else was I gonna throw out there? There was one I didn't really put on the list. This is very much developing as of today. Do you see the news on Joe Biden?
Oh, his stage 4 prostate cancer.
Yeah, it's not looking too good. But also, based on what stage it's in, makes you wonder how long they knew about this while he was in office.
That's kind of where I'm like, what if that's why they were trying to get him out of office? Like they were talking about the impeachment thing for him to get Kamala in office. Or what if he would have won the re-election and then they impeached him then and then still.
Yeah.
That's crazy, though. Like, how are you going to keep that from people?
It's a good question. Because it's all about optics, right? You don't want to appear weak.
Okay. But he has, like...
I know. Yeah,
at his age, the chances of him beating that. I mean, don't get me wrong, man still has money, so he could afford all kinds of treatments and everything if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But the chances of him just beating it at that age, it's not great. Like, and I don't say that jokingly. Like, it's not funny. It sucks. You know, prostate cancer is, you know, a awful form of cancer because it can progress pretty quick. Just like, you know, unlike a lot of other cancers where they're just like localized, that can progress to anywhere in your body, really.
Yeah. And one last thing on my end to keep it with the morbid news of the week. Thanks again to our sponsored this episode, Applebee's, eating good in the hood.
I like how
saw-
you say hood, not neighborhood.
We know where the Applebee's are located. I saw this starting to fly around in the last 48 hours, give or take. I first saw it from Dr. Robert Malone, which, if anyone remembers from around 2020, Dr. Malone was very controversial because he had a role, if I remember correctly, in the creation of mRNA technology that was ultimately ended up being used for the vaccine program. But he shared this journal entry from a peer-reviewed study. Is saying this new peer-reviewed study shows that living close to a golf course significantly increases the odds of contracting Parkinson disease. The conclusion is that it is pesticides, most likely from groundwater contamination. Just something I've really thought about before is the closer to a golf course you live, you have a higher chance of contracting Parkinson disease, potentially.
I don't know if this is like associated with that, but there was something that Dana was telling me about how the rainwater in San Antonio most recently was like blue. It was like contaminated or something like that, but someone drank it and like, let me see if I can.
Oh,
and she said, I don't know how long ago this was. Hold on.
Yeah, it looks about a week ago. San Antonio's blue rainwater.
Yeah, the chemical treatment. Wait, hold on. May 6, 2025.
Yeah.
Maybe present in source water include microbial contaminants, inorganic contaminants, pesticides and herbicides, organic chemical contaminants, and radioactive contaminants.
Yo, yeah, look at this.
And I actually have something that could segue into my last few things, but
water falling out of the sky, particularly in southern states. Check it out.
So I live here in the Central Valley, and it was raining a couple minutes ago. Can anyone explain?
That's blue. That's like artificial blue. Yes.
That's like antifreeze blue.
Yeah. Yeah, I would not drink that, even as a joke. No. No way.
No. Well, it's funny because when I was just kind of reading through like what it was contaminated with and stuff like that, one of the things says radioactive contaminants, which can be naturally occurring or be the result of oil and gas production and mining activities. But here's the thing. I don't know how much this may coincide.
Yeah.
But granted, this happened before that, but it says May 12th, 2025. Texas acquired 18 new power plants. So not only are we, like I said, talking about the number one in, education and this and that, this is another thing. Like, Texas becoming the number one in energy efficiency, just like, AI, electricity, wind, like all this, like they're trying to become there's something happening here. I don't know what's going on. We're going to have to do an updated like Texas like episode in the future. Maybe talk about it on our next live stream. I don't know yet, but there's some stuff that's happening in Texas right now that, we can't explain, but we're going to do our best to decipher what's happening.
Yeah. Culturally, financially, technology, it's all here.
Economically, like so much stuff is happening that we may, we're going to try to discuss some things that maybe have like updates that are happening and bring up some stuff, from the, that we talked about beforehand, on our previous episodes and such, but just kind of how that can kind of coincide. But it says the $12 billion deal will double the company's power generation capacity. The Houston-based energy giant said in a press release the facilities will power about 13 gigawatts. For those of you who don't know how much that is, that's a lot.
I would assume.
In addition, will expand NRG's generation footprint in the Northeast and Texas, where most of its load is located. So the Electrical Reliability Council of Texas, ERCOT, has predicted that the state's energy demand could nearly double by 2030. So hopefully no more crappy power plant infrastructure when it comes to our freezes that we get, which we didn't have one this year, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's a good point. We actually didn't really have
it wasn't massive.
Yeah, we didn't. Anytime we had freezes, we didn't get the precipitation with it.
Yeah. So there's that happening. Let's see here. I guess to kind of like tie a nice little bow to kind of wrap up a lot of this. Actually,
Thanks again to our lovely sponsors this episode, Applebee's. I'm going to manifest it.
So we've been having some severe weather. Dude, freaking tornadoes. Like it's nobody's business. Texas hasn't had anything, but Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky. There was actually a most recent let's see here.
Yeah, we had a weird thing the other day in the Austin area. Same county, but thankfully we didn't get hit by it. Was, we had that heat wave come through. So it got to be like 105 in the day, but then we had hail at night.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can find the picture of it, because there was a picture that I saw that was like these people were in this helicopter and they were just taking this picture of, right here. I think this was it. Yeah, so in Missouri. So let me just kind of pull this up. So this is like, they got a better vantage point of it, but this was the trail that went through Kentucky and Missouri.
Wow, so it's like all the down trees from or the ripped out of the ground trees.
Yeah. And I don't know if there was another one, but this one, like there was a better picture that I had found that was just more of like a better vantage point.
Yeah.
But dude, like that sucker was going. And like I said, there was one that hit Missouri. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like Tornado Alley's not Texas anymore. Like we're definitely like on the tip of it, but man, a lot of this stuff's moved east.
And we were getting them. Like we're still. It's not like we're not getting tornadoes.
Yeah.
But
like the monstrous ones.
Yeah.
When I think tornadoes, I just don't think Missouri. I don't think Kentucky. I do now, but historically, it's like when you think tornadoes, you think Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, Kansas.
I mean, Missouri was still getting them because what was there was like a significant.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is like, remember as a kid learning about tornadoes, Tornado Alley, like it was straight up north of Texas. Like you didn't really talk about Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri.
They did say it was trying to circulate to move Tornado Alley back because, we were getting a couple here and there. We had a couple, I think, like in April that hit in Texas that, just randomly. We don't know how it happened, but it just kind of just happened. But yeah, no, I agree. Like, it's kind of odd now to see tornadoes that are happening in like northern states now that shouldn't be happening. And so it's very interesting. So, as you can see on my notes, I kind of put an X segment on there because I was just kind of going through X and I was just like finding different things. Some stuff was funny, some stuff was kind of serious and stuff like that. Some stuff that kind of might spark some conversations. But I was like, let's just kind of go through like a little X segment, which I think could be a fun little segment that we could start adding to kind of wrap up the bow of just like a bunch of stuff. So Donald Trump apparently, because Walmart came out and admitted like, hey, we're about to raise all of our prices.
Yeah.
And they're blaming that on the tariffs. It's like, you don't have to raise your prices. You're $1 billion company. You don't have to raise prices for anything. Nothing has to be high. So he's just like, you need to eat the tariffs. You shouldn't charge valued customers more than what they're paying, which I think that's why a lot of people are kind of taking into the, I say a lot of people, but you still see an influx of people doing this, but the homesteading or like teaching yourself how to make certain things, which if we had the space to do so here, in our home, we would do that. Like, I would start learning how to do certain things. Like I already kind of want to make my own, like get buttermilk and just make your own butter and just different things like that aspect to save money, because a lot of stuff that you buy in the stores it's made in a plant. It's not made naturally. But yeah, so he's straight up calling out Walmart and he's like, hey, you made billions of dollars last year. Why?
I think Walmart did come out and say they were going to actually eat the cost of tariffs.
They might have after he said this, because this was May 17th. So this was just this was posted. Donald Trump tweeted this. Let's see here. When did he tweet this? I don't know. It doesn't say. I don't know how long ago he tweeted that. If they did, like, that's awesome. Like,
I'm trying to remember. For some reason, I thought they would. I don't know. I guess we'll see what ends up happening with that.
Yeah. Senator Mark Mullen responds to a report about a plane gifted. So this is that plane that was gifted.
Reaction to Trump doubling down on accepting the $400 million jet from Qatar.
I have zero issue with it.
You have zero issue with it? Do you
Zero.
think it raises ethics concerns or national security concerns?
You ever been to New York and saw the Statue of Liberty? That was a gift too.
Do you have any safety concerns about, this coming from a foreign government? And
So you know anything about safety and our security and our intel? Do you know anything about it? So do you think we're really going to take a plane and not strip it and put all the Air Force One stuff in it, even if it came brand new from the factory? If you don't understand that basic knowledge, then you probably shouldn't be reporting on it.
Yeah, nailed it.
So that's true. They're not going to just accept something and then just not, not go through it and check it all. Some of these are going to be kind of funny. I'm not going to lie.
I saw what you're about to pull up next. Yeah.
Wait, back. You just listen. Like you heard a crunch and a scream. So that
was painful.
I'm pretty sure that girl might be dead.
Might be.
She whacked her head pretty hard. Some of these next ones are Trump AI babies, and I thought they did so well on this when I was listening to them. It's pretty funny.
They're saying I took a $400 million bribe. Can you believe it? First it was Russia, then Ukraine, now this. The fake news just keeps getting better. Let me tell you something. If someone offered me $400 million to put America first, I'd say, make it 5, and I'll throw in NATO too. But seriously, folks, what they call a bribe, I call a deal. That's what I do. That's why the economy was booming, the borders were secure, and the world respected us. You know who really took bribes? The people who sent billions to China while your jobs vanished. The people who made sure you paid more for gas, groceries, and everything else.
Even though it's baby Trump, it makes a valid point.
Yeah.
The FDA just approved new medication for lesbians with depression.
Don't. Just don't.
It's called Tricoxagen.
That was good.
Let's see here. Oh, so this was actually pretty significant.
All right, back to this massive story we're covering out of New Orleans, Louisiana. 11 escaped inmates. There is a manhunt underway at this hour. We have a brand new statement in from the Attorney General of Louisiana. She says, quote, someone clearly dropped the ball and there is no excuse for this. I'm in communication with Troop NOLA and the LA State Police, Louisiana State Police Superintendent, Colonel Hodges. It's all hands on deck. The first priority in any escape must be the immediate capture of the inmates in coordination with state and local law enforcement. But that effort cannot come at the expense of timely notification to the public, which is also critical to keeping communities safe. My office will do whatever it takes to determine how this happened and make sure that it won't happen again. I'm calling on a full investigation. This is beyond unacceptable. And once these offenders are back in custody, there must be real accountability. John, this, as we have more brand new information, that they do not have 2 of those back in custody. We were reporting, per their statement, that they had caught 2 and put back into jail 2 of these escaped inmates. They are now issuing a correction from the sheriff's office that only 1 inmate has been captured. There are 10 still on the run.
Yeah, and that fellow was captured in the French Quarter. Had not gone that far. No idea where all of the other inmates went, if they stayed in the city or if they're trying to get out of the city. I mean, there's lots of places to hide in Louisiana. There's no question about that. But full-scale press, manhunt underway to try to get these inmates back because, as you pointed out, Sandra, some of them are very dangerous. We don't know if they've managed to arm themselves since their escape, but you could bet, given what they were in jail for, that they are people that you don't want to encounter.
Okay, so a little more information here from the sheriff's office on the 1 captured inmate, Kendall Miles, currently back in custody. He's being rebooked at the facility for a new charge of what they're calling simple escape. The deputies found him hiding underneath a car at a local hotel on Royal Street. He was in a parking garage at the hotel, John. He was then transported back to the jail by the Louisiana State Police. The remaining individuals are still being actively pursued, and our deputies, in collaboration with local and state law enforcement, are working tirelessly to locate and return them to custody. The sheriff's office also says there will be a briefing top of the hour about 16 minutes from now in front of the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. That obviously will be a moment where we hope to get more information on the search for these inmates, John.
Imagine being the one guy that got caught.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know exactly where that jail. I know it's in New Orleans, but like, I guess how like so it's pretty close to the Texas border. So there might be some of them that are trying to cross into the border.
Nah,
Probably
I don't think they're trying to cross the Texas border. New Orleans pretty. I mean, there's some distance there. If they're on foot,
how many?
They'll probably go north Louisiana, I would assume. If they're trying to get away, yeah, because that's on the far east side of Louisiana. If anything, maybe
I didn't know how far it was.
Yeah, they could maybe go up to like Mississippi potentially, but like just to give perspective, it's like it's on the far east side. So here's Mississippi right here. So they go up into Mississippi maybe, but they're gonna have it's a statewide manhunt probably. They'll have Mississippi State Patrol going after him too probably.
Right. Some more Trump baby stuff.
They say I fell asleep at a meeting in Saudi Arabia. Fake news. I closed my eyes for 2 seconds thinking, deep thinking, smart thinking. I just flew 12 hours, no sleep, straight into high-level talks. And guess what? I still ran the room. No teleprompter, no naps, unlike Sleepy Joe. They call it dozing off. I call it global strategy. America's back. Stronger, smarter, and wide awake.
Dude, baby Trump is like, baby AI Trump, man, is going to be the next big thing.
Janet, I love you. You've got trees, moose, that little Sarah thing. You're adorable. But let's face it, you're basically the attic of America. Quiet, cold, and full of stuff nobody remembers until Christmas. So let's fix that. Let's make you the 51st state. Beautiful, powerful, slightly colder Florida. You guys have health care that's free, but you wait 11 years for a dentist. That's not health care. That's tooth prison. We'll get you real options. Fast, American style. Dentist with muscles. Your money has animals on it. Moose, bears, birds. I thought it was a zoo brochure. Join us and we'll give you some good old-fashioned green cash. Dead presidents, very classy. And your prime minister. He's like if a drama teacher ran a Whole Foods. Nice hair, no power. Down here, we've got real leaders. We throw paper towels like touchdowns during hurricanes. Big energy. You've already got our TV, our food, our slang. You say sorry like we say excuse me in Walmart brawls. So let's just do it. Sign the paperwork, swap out the flag, and boom! Canada becomes America. We'll even let you keep Tim Hortons. Canada.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm not gonna show that because that was funny. This is like the 2028 LA Olympics.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but I just figured like a quick little Twitter segment.
Yeah.
This is just like
I like doing that maybe at the end of each one. Do a little dump of stuff.
UAE just awarded President Trump the Zayed Medal, the highest honor in the United Arab Emirates. So that happened, I think, when he was actually over there last week. And then RFK isn't allowed to declare war, is he? But apparently he declared war based on
declaring war on fat gay kids, not the kids themselves, but on whatever's making them so fat, gay, and pathetic.
Okay.
I'm talking.
It's AI, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so again, this is just kind of just a little Twitter dump.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but cool. Well, that's pretty much all I got.
Cool. Well, I think we can put episode 68 in the books. If you made it this far, first of all, that's cool. Glad you did. If you haven't done so, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit that follow button, give it a thumbs up wherever you're at. You know what to do. All the fun buzzwords people like to throw out there. It helps us. It helps the show. Helps us know what you like, what you don't like. Leave us a comment down below. Riley, you want to leave the people with some words of wisdom this week?
Words of wisdom. I'll be honest, man. We need to stay away from that Annabelle doll in San Antonio. I think they need to just honestly just take that and just put it in the deepest, darkest hole somewhere and just lock it away. Don't let it ever get out into public vicinities anymore. The proof is in the pudding, I guess, if you will, with the people who decided to have conversations with it, and now they're no longer with us. So that kind of needs to not be a thing. Are you going to watch King of the Hill? I actually wouldn't mind checking it out. We'll have to see how that rolls out, and yeah, stay away from golf courses. You don't want to get Parkinson's disease. Stay away from golf. I knew there was a reason why I didn't like golf. I'm just saying, I knew there was a reason I wasn't a fan of it. Now I have a real reason. Now I'm not getting Parkinson's. I'm good. So just stay away from that, and yeah, that's about it.